laid upon the table.
We've been here before. On Wednesday, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to impeach President Donald Trump for the second time in 13 months. It comes just 1 week after Trump supporters attacked the Capitol building, including this chamber. The article of impeachment accused Trump of inciting the mob. The siege left members of Congress and staff hiding under their seats and barricading themselves in back rooms for hours.
I knew as we were sheltering within the first moments that it was going to be important for there to be accountability for those actions. And without accountability, our nation cannot unite and cannot begin to heal.
This time, 10 Republicans joined Democrats to vote for impeachment. That included the number 3 Republican in the House, Liz Cheney, daughter of the former Vice President Dick Cheney. And some Republicans who voted against impeachment still said Trump was at fault.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters. He should have immediately denounced the mob when he saw what was unfolding, which is why I think a fact-finding commission and a censure resolution would be prudent. Unfortunately, that is not where we are today.
After the vote, the president posted a 5-minute video to the White House Twitter account. He did not reference the impeachment.
Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans.
With 1 week left until a new president is sworn in, officials in Washington are taking precautions ahead of more potential protests. On Inauguration Day, there will be more U.S. troops in the capital city than in Afghanistan and Iraq combined. Yasmine El-Sabawi, TRT World, Washington.
Well, let's get more on these unprecedented events with Jason Nichols in Ellicot City, Maryland. He's a Democratic strategist and lecturer on African American studies at the University of Maryland. And joining him is Republican political consultant William O'Reilly in Mount Kisco, New York. He's a partner at the political and corporate communications firm, the November Team. Very warm welcome to you both. Jason, if I could begin with you, this is the first time a US president has been impeached twice, but this only came about because Vice President Mike Pence refused to use the 25th Amendment that could have removed Donald Trump from office. Are you disappointed that that didn't happen?
Well, I didn't expect for Pence to do so. So I guess I'm not disappointed because I expected that Mike Pence would avoid doing so because he didn't want to anger the Donald Trump supporters any more than he already has. Many of the people who stormed the Capitol and caused the carnage that you see and smeared feces on the walls and urinated in the halls of Congress, those very same people wanted to hang Mike Pence. So it is disappointing that he not only didn't stand up for Congress, stand up for the nation, or stand up for himself, but it's understandable that he didn't do so because he didn't want to anger the people that he one day will want their votes when he furthers his political aspirations and tries to become president. So I wasn't disappointed because I wasn't surprised.
William, as we know, just 10 out of the 211 House Republicans voted to impeach Donald Trump. As someone who quit the Republican Party after 35 years when it became clear that Donald Trump would become its leader back in 2016, are you disappointed that there wasn't a bigger backlash against Trump during these impeachment proceedings?
I've got to first say that it's deeply embarrassing as an American that we're even having this conversation. But I'll take the 10. I was hoping for more. It's important to understand the context of it. Out of 45 presidents, 4 have now been impeached. Nobody with as much bipartisan support against him for the impeachment than Donald Trump. But certainly I would have liked to see many, many more Republicans breaking. I think that the quintessential problem in the U.S. is that Republican elected officials are afraid of their own constituents. They're afraid of their so-called base. Now it goes to the Senate, and the question is whether there'll be 17 votes there for conviction. I'd like to believe that's the case. I think the most important thing besides having that conviction for posterity is to block Donald Trump from running again for office, because if that's not done, he will use the next 4 years and his considerable political contributions to continue riling up the base and making trouble in the U.S.
Yes, and I want to come to the potential outcomes of that Senate trial in a moment. But Jason, it's looking like the trial against Donald Trump in the Senate won't begin until after Joe Biden assumes office on January the 20th. Are you worried that perhaps those proceedings might dominate Joe Biden's agenda just as he takes office, and at a time when Congress should perhaps be focused on other things, such as the pandemic that's still raging across the country, as well as the economic impact that it's had?
No, I'm not concerned. I think that Joe Biden has made it clear that one of the things that he really wants to do is to make sure that Congress splits time in between tackling the issues that Americans need and also holding the terrorists who took over our Capitol and killed a police officer and led to the deaths of 4 others, holding those people accountable and the person who's ultimately accountable, who will then be the former president of the United States. And I think, as William said, and I totally agree with him, and, he's the Bill O'Reilly that I like more. I will say that one of the things that he said that I think is important is not only do we not want him to run again, we also don't want him to receive classified intelligence briefings and other things that are really important. Also get Secret Service protection. These are things that he has proven he is not worthy of. He was not worthy of the office in 2016. He has shamed our nation. The people who actually won out of all of this are Iran and some of the enemies of the United States actually are emboldened by what the president did here, including just ignoring the results of a free and fair election. So I think that the results that we need to hold this president accountable is important for the future, to let other possible despots who may come into the United States and think that they can rile up some segments of the country. We need to send a message that that is not acceptable here in our country.
William, the main penalty for a guilty verdict as a result of a Senate trial against a president is removal from office. Obviously, that won't apply because Trump will have already left office by the time the Senate trial ends. But as you pointed to earlier, there are other penalties that senators can vote for, including barring Donald Trump from running from office again, also stripping him of his post-presidential privileges, such as his pension, as Jason mentioned there. Do you think there is enough of an appetite among Senate Republicans to do this?
It's very close, and I think the key is what Majority Leader Mitch McConnell decides to do. But I think there's certainly a number of people who have hinted that they'll vote in favor. Now, the barring from future office would be a separate vote. I would actually like to. I think he probably needs Secret Service protection going forward. But I think the most important thing now for the Senate, because this will occur after President Trump is out of office, the most important thing is that President-elect and soon to be President Joe Biden gets his cabinet appointments through. I think that's the priority for the country, is to get this next administration. It's in the other party of the mind, but get it up and running as successfully as possible right off the bat. There are a lot of challenges, here in the U.S., and we need to have that whole. Trump can wait till after that's done, but I only think that's a matter of a few days.
Now, Jason, many Republicans had argued that impeaching Trump for a second time would only further divide an already deeply divided country. And listening to some of the reactions from Trump supporters, that would actually seem to be the case. So do you think these impeachment proceedings was worth perhaps further alienating Trump supporters and I guess further dividing a divided country?
Well, I'm somebody who's gone into conservative media and many times tried to extend an olive branch, and I was called racial epithets and had my family threatened and my own safety threatened. So I'm not so sure that trying to unify after a terrorist attack is the way to go about it. I think that we need to hold those who are responsible accountable. And that's the American way. And of course, there are people who have caused problems in our country before, and I've never heard a defense attorney say, well, for the good of the city or for the good of the community, we're not going to prosecute this person, even though they've committed a crime. That's never happened in our country. It shouldn't start now. And when we have someone who is responsible for an insurgency in our country, they must be held accountable. The same way we held other people who have committed these kinds of crimes accountable in other countries. Why wouldn't we do it in our own nation? And I think that that's incredibly important in order to set a responsible precedent in the future.
Okay, we will have to leave it there. Jason Nichols in Maryland and William O'Reilly in New York, thank you again for joining us on the program.